Governor-elect visits President Bola Tinubu, presents his certificate of return.
Vice President Kashim Shettima meets UN Secretary General. And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss the task before the Chief Justice of Nigeria.
Well, at 66 years of age, Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, is the second female Chief Justice in the Nigerian judiciary. And she is the fifth female chief judge in the Supreme Court that Nigeria has produced.
She's also the 23rd Chief Justice of Nigeria and is reportedly the youngest woman and the fifth female Supreme Court Justice, as Victor already mentioned. Now, recall the other four include Aloma Mukhtar, Helen Ogunmiju, Mary Odili, and Clara Ogunbiyi.
Well, a 4-year journey awaits Justice Kekereekun, who is expected to retire at 70. Well, this journey is riddled with many challenges expectedly, since the judiciary which she now heads is the only savior, the bastion of Nigeria's democracy in this political era.
And yes, the judiciary has often been described as the last hope of the common man who seeks justice to resolve differences rather than take matters into their own hands.
Well, some gains of the judiciary include off-cycle governorship elections in 8 states to correct the wrongs of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. Also recall the judiciary had to intervene in the biting Naira redesign policy of the CBN to rescue Nigerians, as well as the financial autonomy for local governments.
Now, you have just mentioned just a few gains, but I think the challenges before the new Chief Justice of Nigeria are many. One of them, of course, is the level of corruption in the judiciary.
A UNODC report on the 3rd National Corruption Survey in collaboration with the National Bureau of Statistics says 1 to 2% of Nigeria's judges and magistrates take bribes.
That's a heavy one. Now, the judiciary also topped Nigeria's corruption index in a report by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission.
Now, concerned persons have over time insisted that the Chief Justice of Nigeria is too powerful. They cite the fact that the CJN is the chairman of the National Judicial Council, which oversees both the appointment and discipline of judges.
She's also chairman of the Federal Judicial Service Commission, the National Judicial Institute, and the Legal Practitioners Privileges Committee that appoints senior advocates of Nigeria.
In all of this, it is clear that Justice Kekereekun has many challenges to deal with, and many of them require judicial reform. Now, this is to, among other things, ensure quick dispensation of justice, remove corrupt judicial officers, and ensure that they are adequately punished, with jail time, perhaps, if necessary.
And of course, listening to the Chief Justice of Nigeria when she was before the National Assembly some days ago, you want to say that, you know, from the way she spoke and then the meaning of her name, maybe she's just has all the ability to take away all the challenges in the judiciary sector.
The meaning of her name, what's that?
Maybe you should tell me.
Well, it's a Kekereekun means a little tiger. And some will say, well, it's just little.
But there's nothing little about a tiger. All right, we have a panel of guests joining us today to speak on the task before Justice Kudirat Kekereekun. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, the last in the week. I'm Ian Ray John.
And I'm Victor, so let me also welcome you to today's program. We are reaching you on the network service of the NTA. Chukwudi Okolia joins us a bit later for the newspaper review, but that will be after the news with Elizabeth Omori. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Good morning, Victor and Inyeri. Thank you so much for joining us on the news segment. President Bola Tinubu urges Edo State Governor-elect Monday Okpebholo to swiftly begin serving the people upon inauguration, ensuring they reap democracy's benefits. During their meeting at the State House, Tinubu advised Okpebholo to be gracious in victory and unite the people of Edo State, while also working together with his political rivals for the state's development.
So you can face the task of development. We are here to work with you. Thank you for giving us the joy of this victory.
To the 79th Anga, Vice President Kashim Shettima met with United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres at the UN headquarters in New York to discuss regional security, humanitarian relief, and Nigeria's role in international cooperation. The Vice President, representing President Tinubu at the 79th session of the UN General Assembly, was warmly received by Deputy Secretary General Amina Mohammed. Meanwhile, Vice President Kashim Shettima has welcomed ExxonMobil's proposed $10 billion investment in Nigeria's deepwater oil operations, describing it as a clear testament to the administration's economic reforms and investment-friendly policies. This was during a high-level meeting with ExxonMobil executives on the sidelines of the ongoing 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, USA. To hasten relief efforts for victims of the devastating floods, as well as for health and agriculture sectors reforms, the Nigerian government has secured a $600,000 relief fund from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The donation was announced when Vice President Kashim Shettima held a meeting with the Bill Gates and Melinda Gates Foundation, led by its head of Global Development Program, Dr. Christopher Elias, on the sidelines of the 79th United Nations General Assembly in New York. And back home, Minister of Information and National Orientation Mohammed Idris has acknowledged that 25 years of unbroken democracy in Nigeria as a testament to the people's will to attain and sustain freedom and liberty for posterity as the nation celebrates her 64th independence anniversary. The government image maker called on Nigerians to sustain the spirit of resilience as the government intensifies efforts to cushion numerous and daunting challenges. A bit from the judiciary, Kwara State High Court has convicted and sentenced Ayuade Akimbosun and 4 others to death by hanging over their involvement in the deadly April 2018 bank robbery in Ofa. About 30 people comprising policemen and civilians were killed during the robbery. Now, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NETCOM, has successfully rescued 8 more young Nigerian girls trafficked to Ghana and returned them to Nigeria. Abike Dabiri Erewa, Chairman, CEO of NETCOM, received the girls at the NETCOM office in Lagos and thanked Senator Oluremi Tinubu, the First Lady of Nigeria, for her unwavering support in facilitating their return. The rescued girls, aged 15 to 22 from various states, were lured to Ghana with false promises of employment but were forced into sexual exploitation. Abike Dabiri Erewa acknowledged the significant role of President of Nigerians in Diaspora Organization, NADO Ghana Chapter, the Nigerian Embassy in Ghana, and the Interpol units of Nigeria and Ghana in the rescue mission. The girls have been handed over to the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, to ensure safe and comfortable accommodation pending their formal rehabilitation and reintegration with their families. A report just reaching us indicates that 9 students of the Federal University of Lafayette have been abducted in a community in Gandu close to the main campus of the university. And that's the morning news. Good Morning Nigeria continues with beautiful Nyeri and ever dapper Victor.
Nigeria is at the threshold of another milestone in its history as the country is set for the celebration of its 64th independence anniversary on the 1st of October. This year's celebration with the theme, Nigeria at 64, reflecting on the past, inspiring the future, affords the country the chance to reflect on the journey of nationhood and assess the task of nation building.
There's hardship, but how did we get here?
As this year's celebration coincides with the country's 25 years of unbroken democracy, the task of engendering an inclusive governance that caters for every segment, especially the youth, is now.
We've sustained 25 years of democracy this year. We don't want to keep the people hungry and angry.
Nigeria at 64, reflecting on the past, inspiring the future.
Darling natural twists blend with her hair over time.
Yeah, that's perfect.
She's really more beautiful every week. Darling natural twists get better every day, just like you.
A new edition of TV Guide is out.
This time, we got up close and personal with the transformational legislator, the Deputy President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Barrow Jibrin.
It created a difference in terms of representation through interventions that have brought an unprecedented infrastructural development to my area.
This edition is a compendium of mind-blowing stories for your reading pleasure, ranging from technology, entertainment, economy, media, politics, family, and lots more.
It is indeed a park of excitement as we take you through every aspect of life. Pick up your copy and get abreast with issues and trending features within our space.
TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or any NTA station nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
We all get that party where they get your back anytime or day. E go carry a matter for head like say na your own. Now so Go TV tanda for your side as your party for correct enjoyment. We not a tear pocket. For this Go TV Super Plus Golden Window, you fit touchlight all the 380 Premier League games, correct local shows, and better film. We day for you. Make your sharply upgrade or recharge your Go TV on top Super Plus to enjoy every today. The Super Plus Golden Window don't come out money now. No do yourself, oh. Go TV. Love it.
You have to move from the point where you protect and defend your religion to a point where you also recognize the rights of the other person, of the other religion, and protect it. So if I am protecting my own territory and my own people and trying to emphasize their rights and protect their rights, I should also be thinking about how to protect the rights of the others.
Both Islam and Christianity recognize and defer to God, and both recognize the temporariness of the life of this world, and that ultimately we all go back to God for the day of reckoning, when everybody will render an account of his life on this temporary abode.
The Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman Interministerial Committee on Nigeria's 64th Independence Anniversary, Senator George Akume FNIM-CON, wishes to announce the programs lined up for the celebration of Nigeria's 64th Independence Anniversary with the theme, reflecting on the past, inspiring the future, as follows. Special Jum'at prayers, Friday, 27th September 2024. Venue, National Mosque, Abuja. Time, 1 p.m. Interdenominational Church Service, Sunday, 29th September 2024. Venue, National Christian Center, Abuja. Time, 10 a.m. Presidential broadcast, Tuesday, 1st October 2024. Time, 7 a.m. 64th Independence Anniversary Parade, Tuesday, 1st October 2024. Venue, Presidential Villa. Time 10 a.m. All invited guests are to be seated by 9 a.m. Announcer Mohammed Idris, FNIPR, Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation, and Chairman, Media and Publicity Subcommittee.
This Saturday, FC Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen. Watch live FC Bayern Munich versus Bayer Leverkusen on Sporty TV.
Sporty Bet sponsors coverage of the German Bundesliga.
Thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Up next is Newspaper Review.
All right, we got Chukudi Okologbaja with us for the newspaper review. Good morning, sir.
I like the way you land my name. I'm not going to charge you any landing cost because you're doing a good job. Hello, Victor. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Same here.
You look like a red cap chief.
Well, I'm aspiring to become one.
Fantastic.
I wish you luck with that. I'm sure you know it comes with a deep pocket too.
Yes, my dear. You got it.
All right, let's take a look at what the papers have, the headlines on the front pages that we've got. We'll begin with The Nation. The Nation here says federal government cushioning effects of reforms, says ministers. 20 million Nigerians get cash support. Petrol subsidy removal has opened sector to investment. Writers to that story. Away from that, we have why marketers can't purchase petrol from Dangote refinery. That's right here. You can read that up on page 4 of The Nation. Above the masthead, under 18 pupils won't sit for WASC. Minister insists. And next to that, prisons controllers suspended as probe of Bobrisky's claim begins. All right, that's on page 2. It's been everywhere. Flood, 41,192 people affected in 19 local governments of Niger. Jonathan refutes Emir Sanusi's claim on missing $49.8 billion. You want to find out what all of that is about? Page 3 would guide you. Let's just look below quickly now. In a red strip, we have ex-governor Yahaya Bello not afraid of facing trial. That's according to media office. And finally, from the front page of The Nation, we have Tinubu Edo will get full support. Okwebolo visits Villa. All right, let's look away from that. Let's see what the Daily Trust is offering this morning. The Daily Trust has the flood story here leading. Flood displaces 82 communities in Niger. Situation worrisome, according to the writer right here. And according to the SEMA DG rather, 19 local governments affected this year, 4 local governments cut off in Borno. All of that's on page 4. Pictures are not looking good at all. Above that headline, federal government suspends prisons officers over Bobrisky allegation. Of course, that's on all the papers this morning. And this one here is captioned Hardship. Tinubu orders low-key 64th independence celebration. That's on page 30. Jonathan counters Emir Sanusi, says Nigeria did not lose $49.8 billion under his watch. And below, we have in the black strip, another very worrisome report, 15 million Amajire out of school children roaming Nigeria's streets. Street is filled up. Page 6 has that. And cholera kills 11 in Ebonyi. That's on 16, page 16. 12 operators suspend registration for 2025 Hajj. That's on page 7. And finally this morning from the front page of the Daily Trust, offer bank robbers to die by hanging after a 6-year trial. That's on page 5. Victor.
All right, I have the Guardian here. Let me take out some of the stories already read this morning. I'll be servant of all, ready to work with opposition. Okwebolo receives certificate of return. And that purple strip above the story there, why some Heritage Bank depositors are yet to be refunded. That's according to NDIC boss, and it's on page 19. This day publisher to military, stop arresting protesters, go after kidnappers, page 32, and gagging media will stagnate democracy. Governor Yebanji, that story is on page 10. And on page 9, Nigeria at 64, SGF, ministers defend Tinubu's policies amid cabinet reshuffle hint. And then, of course, the major story here talks about the Jonathan Sanusi controversy. And then, flood, how 5 northern states lose 141 lives in 2 months, page 8. Fresh cholera outbreak kills 11 in Ebonyi, page 31. Christian elders to FG reverse fuel price hike to avert looming crisis, page 8. And in sports, Eguavon continues as Super Eagles head coach against Libya. That's according to NFF, and that story is on page 39. And just before I let Chukwudi Okolubaja in, Mr. and Mrs., I know prices of commodities have skyrocketed, but why don't you look for places where prices are reasonable, says Mr., which means meals in this house will become reasonable too, retorts Mrs. Chukwudi.
I am so happy you have a stable marriage. Otherwise, you would have mistakenly included your own crisis in this Mr. and Mrs. you keep reading to us. Anyhow.
I didn't write it.
Victor. Yeah. First of all, we are moving towards our 64th birthday, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, as a nation. And the Secretary to Government of the Federation, that's George Akume, used the opportunity to talk about the cushioning effects of reforms, by the federal government. It says about 20 million Nigerians got cash support. Petrol subsidy removal has opened the country to investment. Good. A hip, hip hooray would always accompany nationhood, whichever way you look at it. However bad we think things are, self-rule is the first rule. We should be happy. We are free. And let's stop blaming neocolonialism for our stagnated growth, as it were. India does not talk that way. It was colonized by the British. They landed on the remote part of the moon, which day? So there are some excuses that are not excusable. We have to change the way we think. Our psyche has to change. We can still do it if we so desire. Vouloir c'est pouvoir. That's it. So we are really happy that we are going to clock another milestone in our journey to nationhood, because we are still putting the country together, as it were. Former President Goodluck Jonathan and the 16th Emir of Kano met at a book launch, I think yesterday. And it was the first time they were meeting after 10 years. And then you remember Sanusi said part of the reason he got booted out of his job there under Jonathan was that he revealed that $49.8 billion was missing from the coffers. Jonathan said that could not have been possible. He said that again yesterday. If such an amount left the treasury, how were we able to pay salaries? If a full investigation...
That's a lot of money, though.
It's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Billions of dollars.
It is a lot of money, which would cause a lot of hiccup in the system if it came out in one fell swoop. If it was taken out in trickles, you would not feel it. But
like you always say, let's leave politics for politicians.
It's okay, we leave it for politicians. But remember that when they sneeze, we catch a cold. 50 million Almajiri out-of-school children roaming the streets of Nigeria. And you say that's an army we should dread.
That's also a lot. 50 million.
So how many are in schools?
Like Henry asked earlier, how many are we?
It's frightening. It is just frightening. And it is an ill wind that will not blow the the children themselves any good, and also those of us who are supposed to be the people taking care of them, you know, their guardians, so to speak. It doesn't tell you that society is safe, because an idle mind is the devil's workshop. So we said in primary school when we're still reading, you know, C. Rolka, quantitative analysis, but particularly Student's Companion. I hope they still, Wilfred D. Best. That was where I started learning my English, you know. So it is not a good thing for us. We've got to do something about it. We should not joke with the Almajiri matter, because it's one of the reasons the North is held prostate. It's not right. It's not the way it should be. It's not right. These are children whom, if we bring them up properly, they could rule this country. They're not inferior to anybody. They are victims of circumstance. So we have a lot of work to do. Yesterday, Claire was asking me about the Bobrisky affair. I pretended that I knew what she was talking about. I read up a bit about it now. A very dark man is alleging that the man got some preferential treatments and all that. Some 10 million was mentioned and all that. The
15 million.
The minister,
15 in one.
15.
You know, 15 somewhere, 10 somewhere.
Money where they will give me, we can build one decent bungalow or 3 rooms. Anyway, we are not sure the money has changed hands. The Minister of Interior has instituted an investigation. I think Dr. Magdalene Ajani is head of that committee. We'll get to know the truth. But when people are sentenced to a time in jail for crying out loud, there should be no preferential treatment. So
but
if we do find out that, yes.
If the board has already sanctioned some senior officers with regards to this, can you now say...
A suspension may not be a sanction.
It's a sanction.
A suspension, sometimes you're suspended from office when they're investigating a matter that you are suspected to have a hand in, so you do not interfere in the process. It doesn't really pronounce you guilty, as it were. I don't know. I'm just conjecturing in this matter, because that's the logic of suspensions during investigations.
We'll just wait then.
Let's see which way the cat jumps. Okay? So, are you pushing anything from your side?
No, I just wanted to say that with regards to the story, you keep seeing papers report prisons. It is no longer prisons. There is a Correctional Service Act of 2019 or so.
Yes.
I'm right, sir?
No. Victor, you are completely correct.
But they keep pushing prisons.
You're right. My name is Chukwudi, it's not Dikuchi. You cannot misname me. It becomes a misnomer. We have to call it what an act has redefined it as. Victor, you're a very tidy journalist. We need to come to your class so that you round us up properly. Nyere is suspiciously silent again. I don't know what she's up to. Her silence scares me.
It's the weekend. Go and have fun.
Smile. I hear that the minimum wage is coming finally. Yeah, you better smile.
Until we see it, to know what it looks like.
Seeing is believing. You
Exactly.
are through and through an African. Faith is everything. Have faith.
Oh, well.
Go get a cup of tea.
Yeah, kick me out politely as usual. It's understandable.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get into the conversation. Stay with us.
Good.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in color, we stand back in demand, we make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Education is unique, we are more than destination.
We are Nigeria, we
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Can you flex your vocals for us? It will. It could be one of your songs, by the way. People fall in love in mysterious ways. Why did they call you Evil Child?
They called me that when I was in school. That was my nickname then in school.
Any reason in particular why they called you Evil Child?
Yeah, because I was actually one of the brilliant students.
Oh, say, mommy! That answer right there, you must, if it's not on this board, problem. That means the people that answer this survey, they have body odor. Hey.
NTA Television College Jos, with a pedigree of producing indelible professionals in the media space and an affiliate of the prestigious Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, for the award of degree in mass communication, calls on prospective candidates to leverage on the following courses it offers for 2024-2025 academic session. BSc Mass Communication, those with minimum admissible score of 180 and above who sat for the 2024 JAMB/UTME and direct entry, while 100 to 179 minimum admissible score can apply for the National Innovation Diploma NID in Film and Television Production, Broadcast Journalism and Television Engineering. For more inquiries, visit our website or call 0803 383 4343. Announcer, Registrar.
We all get that party where they get your back anytime or day. E go carry a matter for head like say na your own. Now so Go TV tanda for your side as your party for correct enjoyment. We not a tear pocket. For this Go TV Super Plus Golden Window, you fit touchlight all the 380 Premier League games, correct local shows, and better film. We day for you. Make your sharply upgrade or recharge your Go TV on top Super Plus to enjoy every today. The Super Plus Golden Window don't come out money now. No do yourself, oh. Go TV. Love it.
The counsel of our fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
This Sunday, live on Sporty TV, Real Betis, Espanyol. Real Betis versus Espanyol. Watch live on Sporty TV.
Brought to you by SportyBet. Play with champions.
All right, this is still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation on the task before the new CJN, let's quickly take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent, Ibrahim Dan Hamidu.
Justice Kudirat Kekere Ekun's appointment marks a significant milestone in Nigeria's judicial history. As the second female Chief Justice, she brings over 3 decades of experience to the role. Born in London, United Kingdom, Justice Kekere Ekun's parents are from Lagos State. Her father, Senator Hassan Adisa Babatunde Fasinro, was a senator and legal practitioner. Kekere Ekun has been part of landmark judgments, including the Imo State governorship case. Her experience in the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, and Lagos State High Court prepares her for the demands of the Chief Justice role. As Chief Justice, Kekere Ekun faces key challenges: restoring public trust, implementing judicial reforms, and navigating political pressure while maintaining judicial independence. With her wealth of experience, Justice Kekere Ekun is poised to lead the Nigerian judiciary toward a brighter future, upholding the Constitution and protecting citizens' rights. Now, the big question remains: will she succeed where others have struggled? Can she tame the political lions and bring sanity to the judiciary? Join us next as our expert panel dives into the trenches, exploring the triumphs and tribulations of Nigeria's new Chief Justice. The conversation is about to get real. Don't miss it.
All right. Thank you, Ibrahim Hamidu, for that background report. And to begin our conversation on the task before the new CJN, let me welcome here Ibrahim Modibo, political affairs analyst. A pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria yet again.
Thank you.
All right, Yemre.
All right, and we also have with us right here in the studio James Igwe, SCN, a legal practitioner. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you very kindly.
All right, looks like we're set for the conversation. We have other guests who will be joining us in the course of this discussion. I'm sure we'll introduce them when they join us.
All right, let me begin with James Igwe. You are a lawyer, law teacher, and so you are more familiar with the judiciary and the new CJN. What do we know about the new CJN, her track records, and well, we are discussing the task before her.
Right. Well, thank you very kindly once again. Let me first of all congratulate His Lordship, the Honorable Justice Montomori Olatokunbo Kekereku, on her Lordship's very historic appointment as Nigeria's second female Chief Justice and 23rd Chief Justice of Nigeria. I can assure you that His Lordship is coming to the seat of the CJN with a wealth of judicial experience and a very distinguished career. And just like you observed, I appeared before His Lordship in 1996 when she was appointed in July, I remember very well, of 1996. And I was a legal practitioner. I had just left the chambers of the legendary Chirotimi Williams in Lagos. And when we appeared before her, you know, you could see a judge that was very determined to deliver justice. And I remember very well, she was just barely about 2 or 3 months old in the bench. His Lordship had read the files very well, and then said to me and my colleague, claimant, kindly look at paragraph XYZ of your claim. Defendant, kindly look at paragraph XYZ of your defense. And then it seems to me that both parties are in one accord in agreeing that the fundamental persons that will suffer if this trial goes on are the students of the school that was involved. Don't you think it was a matter that could be settled out of court? And right there and then, in fact, I had discussed with the counsel on the other side on the possibility of settlement before His Lordship came in. And right there and then, we agreed to meet and came back after a few days, and the matter was settled. And then when you appeared before His Lordship in those days in Lagos, you could feel the discipline. The court, her court, His Lordship's court was not a court where a counsel will come to seek for an adjournment. If you were appearing before her, you must be ready to go on with your matter. That was a kind of discipline that His Lordship brought to the bench. And no wonder, in 2004, she was elevated to the Court of Appeal. And in the Court of Appeal, she did very well. She sat in at least 5 judicial divisions of the Court of Appeal, and then presided in 2 divisions. I remember Makurdi and Akure. And then you could see the hard work evident in a plethora of cases. And then also, joining that with the challenge you have raised, you find that His Lordship is well equipped to handle whatever you call a challenge. Right from her involvement in the bench of Lagos State, she was actually in the committee that drafted the Code of Conduct for Judicial Officers in Lagos State. So in terms of Code of Conduct for Judicial Officers, right from the very beginning, she's well grounded on it. She was also in the committee that worked on a multi-house alternative dispute resolution for Lagos State, Africa's first multi-door courthouse, which is still there in Lagos State. And then also, she's also participated in training for judicial officers. at that level. So you could see a Chief Justice of Nigeria that is well equipped to handle what you refer to as challenges, which we are going to discuss very shortly. And I'm very happy that is happening at this time. And I remember in that case, I turned to my colleague, George Oguntade, I said, His Lordship will go far. And my colleague said, yes. You could feel the discipline in her court in those days. So we are happy that is happening at this time. We thank Mr. President. We thank the NJC. We thank the judiciary. And it must be a time to ensure that we build on those solid foundations that have been laid. And mind you also, while Justice Ariwoola was the CJN, His Lordship was next in seniority. And so attended and was a member of the National Judicial Institute. She was a member of the Federal Judicial Service Commission. So she's well equipped. She knows what the challenges are. And in fact, she was a member of the committee that drafted the new Supreme Court Rules 2024 that is going to come into effect when the Supreme Court resumes by 30th of September this year. So you could see a well-equipped Chief Justice of Nigeria.
All right, well-equipped Chief Justice of Nigeria. Many thanks, James Igwe. I like the way you've spoken about the female Chief Justice, and I'd like to get to Dr. Modibo to just give us his overall impression about, who the new Chief Justice is, and then what are your thoughts about her performance during her tenure? What do you expect to see?
Well, as a development communication scholar, I have followed the trackings of Justice Kekere Ekun. This is a woman of substance, a woman that has paid her dues within the committee of the judiciary. This is a woman with discipline and character. This is a woman with charm, charisma, and also a woman that does not tolerate act of indiscipline and corruption. Justice Kekere Ekun is a noted judicial expert. I'm so happy that when the senior advocate of Nigeria has been referring to her lordship as his lordship, it's just like the media. You know, the media we're not gender sensitive. Everybody is gentleman of the press, whether you're a woman or not, gentleman of the press. And here we see his lordship. It should have been her lordship, but that is not the issue of contention. So I'm educated, and journalists, the lawyers claim that they are learned, but let me tell you,
they are not the only learned people.
No, journalism is the only learned profession in the world. Because take us
louder,
to the moon.
Please, louder.
I say journalism is the only learned profession in the world.
Thank you very much.
Take the journalist to the moon, he'll cover. Take him under the sea, he'll cover. Take him to a legal profession, he'll cover. Take him to science and technology, he'll cover. Take him everywhere in the world, he'll cover. But can a lawyer do that?
Well, now.
Let's not derail the conversation. Some will also argue, a philosopher will tell you that a philosopher is for all times, all ages, all disciplines.
No, philosophy.
I'm the judge in this court, and what Dr. Modibo has said is binding on all of us. The journalists are the most learned.
So
and I have no right of appeal.
Not at all.
So that's in breach of my rights now.
When you get to your own court, you can take it up from there.
You can see that. So here we are with the newest Chief Justice of Nigeria, the 23rd in the hierarchy of Chief Justices in this country since maybe before independence or since independence. And I'm so happy that climbing through the ladder up to the peak or apex of the profession, where she was the deputy or the assistant to the former Chief Justice, and now she has climbed to the ladder. I'm so happy that this woman has been appointed as Chief Justice of Nigeria. And one fundamental issue that struck me about her was her interview, especially at the Senate, where she talked of instilling discipline and bringing character and distinction into the legal profession. You will agree with me that going by Bureau of Statistics index, recent index of Bureau of Statistics of Nigeria, the judiciary came tops in terms of corruption index, surpassing police, surpassing customs, surpassing everything. This woman should stamp her feet on the sands of time. She should leave an indelible mark in the judicial process by making fundamental reforms. These reforms should come in handy. I am sure that she's up to the task. Bear in mind that she stated clearly they should not tolerate indiscipline, should not tolerate corruption. And if you look at the myriad of problems, well, especially if you look at by way of general analysis, you'll agree with me, the presenter, that this woman needs to come forcefully, diplomatically, judicially, and whatever to ensure that the Nigerian judicial system has been overhauled. There is a need for her as an agenda to make sure that where there are pitfalls, she should be able to block them. In trying to break the barriers to define the narrative, I will employ, and she also knows that she is under no illusion as to the myriad of problems confronting the Nigerian judicial system and the Nigerian society in general. Because the judiciary cannot be isolated from the public. The public perception of the judiciary today, it is abysmally low, and it is unfortunate. Bearing in mind that you see court judgments from the same courts of the same level, this judgment here, dancing to the whims and pandering to the whims and caprices of the politicians. It's unfortunate. What we know of judiciary before is these are people of character and decision. Wherever you see a judicial officer, you must respect him. They don't go to parties where they drink anyhow and dance anyhow and they shout. They are always guided by the ethics and etiquette of the profession. You see a complete gentleman. Especially if you're a judge, you are supposed to just not be heard loudly anywhere. But what are we seeing these days? You just see some of the judges going to parties and then do Owambe, drinking beer. And you see, so this discipline must be enthroned. This woman should come in and make sure that, look, as she promised, I want to believe that there are a lot of issues in contention that the present Chief Justice must confront, especially reforming the electronic device system, where now judges write in shorthand. It takes them time, you know, and again, to be writing their judgments and what have you, taking evidences and what have you. And also, if you look at the issue, if you look at the issues of even registrars, I think it's time now we have lawyers employed as registrars in courts of jurisdiction. Therefore, if we see all these school leavers by way of professional calling, if we employ lawyers as registrars of the courts, they will be able to look at the issues of the courts dispassionately and also be able to fill in the gaps where there are gaps. So, in going back to basics, I think first and foremost is to make sure that the judiciary is people by people of character and learning. We should have people that have been tested and trusted, not bringing people from everywhere, anywhere, because they are lawyers, and they've not even gone to courts. They've not even been able to, either as solicitors, advocates, or at the bar. You raise them to the apex of high court judges. It's unfortunate. It's travesty of justice. And we also see a situation where people are now employing their own sons and daughters as judges of high courts and what have you. When has it become a family affair? The judiciary should be a kind of inheritance. It's never done. Judiciary are people by people of character, you know, while we see judgments, sound judgments. I could remember people like Justice Nikitobi and what have you. When we were in Maiduguri, you know, in the early 80s as university student, I knew when he was our dean. This person, look, if you look at some of the judgments, look at the English, look at the texture in terms of articulation of ideas, the sound judgments. But what we have now, I don't know.
We'll think, of course, you will call me. Let me thank Dr. Ibrahim Modibo, first and foremost, development communication scholar and public affairs analyst. We thank you for the points you have raised. He has raised quite a number of issues, but these are just some.
Right. I would like to address, I would like to address some of the points that, with respect to Alhaji Modibo, with respect to him, I'd like to address some of the points that he has raised. And let me tell you, the judiciary is perhaps the most hard-working arm of the government in Nigeria. These judges work so hard. I'll give you an illustration. In the 2023-2024 legal year, started in September 2023 and ended in July 2024, 1,124 cases were filed in Nigeria's Supreme Court. At that time, they were only this was before the appointment of the new justices, only 15 honorable justices. 1,124 cases were filed, and they delivered 274 judgments. I'm coming.
This is noted.
No, hold on. I just want to respond to his point because I'm here.
Yeah, because you said you were going to respond to him.
Yes, I want to respond to his point.
He didn't say they don't work hard.
I'm laying a foundation. I'm laying a foundation. Please just give me a minute. I'm laying a foundation. They delivered 247 judgments. They don't even have time to themselves. U.S. Supreme Court received only 62 and delivered opinions in 60. U.S. Supreme Court, in that same term, they call their own term, we call our own legal year. Between 2022 to 2007 and 2022, only 1,188 cases were filed in the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm laying an example. I'm laying a foundation. So the honorable judges and justices are not able to respond to all criticisms by the nature of their training. They don't even have the time. And so a lot of the perceptions you find in the public domain, in the social media, are not true. And I'm speaking as an insider. Okay? Now, when you say corruption, the judiciary has a mechanism of dealing with petitions on corruption. And they are recorded. The files are there. The records are there. Nothing is hidden. Okay? And then you find out that when you compare that with the other arms of government, it's abysmally low. I don't know where they're getting these statistics because the judges will not even respond. If you ask them to respond, they don't even have the time. A judge goes to court, sits at 9 o'clock, and then gets up by about 2-3 p.m., goes home and starts reading his files for the next day. The socialization you're talking about, I haven't seen that. We haven't seen that.
Anyways,
let's take this in beats.
Yes.
You know what? Let's take this in beats so that we don't model things
right.
up. He made clear allegations.
Yeah.
He said, of course, are you going to deny that you have judgments, counter judgments here and there from the same levels of courts? Is that not what we see?
Judges are human beings.
You said you don't know. You said you didn't know.
Hold on, there are precedents that guide cases.
But we've seen a case
precedents are there that guides cases. And that's why you have the Supreme Court. You see, the Supreme Court, people don't always know. The Supreme Court is the apex court and is a policy court. The court, and then the Constitution is there. The electoral acts are there. And then you know politicians, every politician wants to make sure to win his case. We must be able to see, and also we must be able to accept defeats. If you win a case, glory be to God. If you lose a case, accept defeat and get on. Politicians don't want to accept defeats.
What about the kind of statements credited to a former CJN when he had the G7, G5 debacle in the PDP? That's also part of the things he's talking about. These are in the public domain, so you can't say they don't exist.
Hold on. I'm not saying that there are no isolated cases of complaints here and there. But I'm saying that the judiciary itself has a way of dealing with those challenges better than any arm of government. And these judges are overworked. So it's not good to just throw allegations. I'm coming to throw allegations on. I'm not a judge, but at least I conduct extensive research on the cases you're talking about. Now, if you lose a case as a lawyer, your answer should be to criticize that case in another case or write an criticism in a law journal. Not to go to the press, not to... because there are cases in court. And remember that some of these emotional statements affect life cases in court. If you see the way these honorable judges suffer themselves to deliver, to conduct justice delivery, I've just cited an example of the current CJN when she started. You could feel the discipline. Now, I am not saying that there are no isolated cases of misconduct here and there, or maybe if some of them,
If you say misconceptions, you know, Dr. Modibo tried to highlight some of the issues in the past that has made judiciary, you know, a bit reduced in the eyes of the average Nigerian. Let's just look at the emirship torso in Kano, for example, and all that played out. Would you say that the judiciary and do that properly?
The case went to Supreme Court. The Supreme Court decided everywhere is calm. You see, you have the Constitution created a judiciary. I'm coming. No, okay, you're talking about the emirship torso. No, okay, I thought you were talking about the governorship torso.
Emirship torso.
The case is in court. People should keep quiet and let the case and let judges do their work. Are you now the judge? I mean, on the one I read what people write on the media, they're already telling the judge what his judgment would be. The facts, listen, this is how a case decided. You win or lose a case by your pleadings. You will state in your statement of defense or claim, this is what the issue is. The defendant will state his own. The case will go to court. The lawyers will address the court on it. Based on the facts before the judge. A judge is not supposed to take facts of a case from the television or from interviews. A judge looks at the facts before him. You'll be amazed that the public is saying a different thing. The lawyer has presented a different thing before the judge. It is the facts before the judge. So let the court do their work.
Okay, Leonard
Leave
Silk.
them to do their work.
Leonard Silk, what in your opinion is the task before the new CJN?
In my opinion, all the challenges, what you call as task, you will see that the judiciary is ahead of the game. They have a national judicial policy to 2013. And that national judicial policy examined all the challenges and plausible challenges. Okay? First of all, the first one, which I can narrow down to his question, is judicial independence and accountability. That is policy number 1 in the National Judicial Policy of 2013. That was when it was reviewed. It talks about the judge, when you are dealing with cases before you, to ensure that you are independent and then you're sure that you're not in any way influenced. And then the second policy number 2 is to ensure accountability of the judge. That is when you're deciding a case. But you see, the challenge before the CJN will be ensuring a more effective case management system. Like I told you, the Supreme Court, for example, is overworked. It is the most overburdened court in the whole world. I have just told you that in 2023 to 2024 legal year that ended in July 2024, 1,124 cases were filed in Nigeria Supreme Court. You have only, at that time, 15 honorable justices to deal with 1,124, the most overburdened Supreme Court in the whole world. Supreme Court of the United States, that was founded more than 200 years ago in the 17th century, had only 62 cases referred to them. They dismissed 2 and gave opinion in only 60. This is so one of the challenges I see is, how do you develop a proper case management matrix, and also to follow up the register of cases, to track them down, because you have so many cases in the Supreme Court. You have cases that have been there for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Again, also, it's not even it will be a challenge that you need a proper coordination between the Nigerian Bar Association, the lawyers themselves, and the courts to solve. Because most of those cases arise because the politicians, okay, you file frivolous appeals. They file interlocutory appeals. And interlocutory appeals is an appeal that will arise from a major case. A judge rules on a minor case that you should let the entire trial to take place. You say no. The politician will say, no, no, no. Go to Court of Appeal. And then you go to Court of Appeal, you stay there for 4 years. He said, no, 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 no. Go to Supreme Court. Remember that the main case is still at the trial court. And by the time you exhaust these layers of appeals, 8 years. In fact, even His Lordship, the Honorable the CJN now, in the case of Braithwaite and Dahatu, spoke against it. He said, look, the case before us, we have been ready to go on with this matter. But looking at it, it's now 12 years that the interlocutory decision was given in the High Court, and a lawyer appealed on it. So the problem is also the politicians.
But isn't that a problem in itself? That's
what I'm saying.
You don't exhaust issues. Why should you be allowed to go to
hold on. So the challenge will be, so can I, please, let me finish. Hold on, let me finish. Yeah, so the challenge would be, now that there is a constitutional amendment, now there's a constitutional amendment, it's a responsibility amongst all the arms of government to ensure a constitutional amendment where interlocutory appeals will stop at the Court of Appeal.
All right, many thanks, James Igwe, SAN, for the comments that you have made. Of course, you did make a point. You said most of the time what is in the media space is not what is before the judge.
Yes.
And of course, when you said that, what came to my mind was the Supreme Court judgment in 2020, for instance, that sacked Emeka Ihedioha from office as governor of Imo State, where the number of votes cast actually outnumbered the total accredited voters, and is still, causing confusion in certain circles. Dr. Modibo, I want you to respond to some of the comments that the Leonard SEN has made, and then talk about what the CGN has to do differently, because I mean, we've had so many court cases. He's talked about putting the blame on the politicians, but of course, most cases that are political, I mean, the judgments always come out and Nigerians are wondering, what they didn't see. So please, respond to some of the comments.
You see, with due respect to Elana Silk, what I was emphasizing on is the issue of giving parallel judgments at coordinated courts. If you look at the issue of Kano that you talked about, on the issue of the emirship tussle, the State High Court is giving different judgment, the Federal High Court still in Kano giving different judgments. And they are all coordinated courts. So how do we look at this issue? So one of the fundamental reasons that should come to the current Chief Justice is to make reforms, where if you go to State High Court, if you are not satisfied, you go to Appeal Court, then maybe to Supreme Court. And on the issue of court system, there is a need for urgent reform. This, Her Lordship or His Lordship, stepping in, should be able to see to the possibility of creating special courts for politics, where we have cases maybe decided by retired justices in conjunction maybe with justices. Why can't we employ more Supreme Court justices, or why can't we bring in more Supreme Court justices? There are so many people that are qualified. Establish special. No, excuse me.
You would respond, James Igwe. You would respond when he's done.
The silk. No. You are not helping me. Just wait. So you see, if you look at all this, and is the silk saying that the Bureau of National Statistics are liars? They are not liars. It's based on empirical evidences that they'll be able to get these facts, why they stated clearly in their recent report. Let him go and read it. That the judiciary top ranks in terms of corruption index in Nigeria, followed surpassing police, surpassing customs. So you can see the trajectory and the tragedy that is encapsulated in the judicial system, of which is inherited. Therefore, to me, as a follower, as a scholar, and also somebody that has, well, as a development communication expert, I have a PhD in development communication, and therefore, I have been able to follow the trackings of the judiciary and other national events. Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, the issue that is confronting this woman today, there are myriad of problems. There is a need for her to make sure that the NJC takes seriously the issue of looking at judges or lawyers that are faulted and disciplining them immediately. Look at, for instance, most of the lawyers, as he's talking, is sub judice. For you to come to the media and start talking on process of courts that are presently pending, and that is what most of them do. They go to the area, NTA, the channels, and all. They discuss some of this, and it's sub judice. The current Chief Justice should be able to look dispassionately into this and stop it. Two, the issue of lawyers, the issue of judges. Now, thank God, they've been adequately remunerated. They are the only ones in Nigeria today whose salaries have increased by 300%. When other civil servants are getting less than 50%, they are having 300%. That is a good motivation. It's enough this thing to make them sit up and look dispassionately into the issues of the judiciary. Because the judiciary is the last of the common man. Believe me, if the judiciary fails, as it is failing now, abysmally low, in the eyes of the reasonable thinking public, it is going to be a recipe for chaos and disaster. God forbid. Therefore, Justice Kekereekun, it's time for her to step in to the fray, to make sure that she brings in fundamental reforms that could make sure that Nigeria's judiciary gets back to the apex of its responsibility and also responsibility. To me, I cannot see the details in some of these cases coming up, political cases, why somebody that came number 3 will automatically be flunked to number 1 when the number 2 is there. So which kind of judgments are these? Sometimes when I sit, I weep. Because some of these judgments that I see, it is just like abracadabra. The more you see, or the more you look, the less you see. Because I cannot fathom. Madam Presenter, I was a court clerk. I was a court clerk in the court system of this country in 1978, when my salary then was 78 naira. I was a court clerk. When I finished my secondary school, I started. Then before going to the university in the 80s. So I have known judges. If you see a judge that time, believe me, a judge was just like a mini god, court and uncourt. Because of character, personality, distinction, and also sound judgment based on fundamentals of the law. Not judgments that are tied to the aprons or strings of politics.
All right.
We should correct this.
All right.
We should not be subservient to.
Of course, that's what we're hoping that the CJN would correct.
Right.
Now, just I know you want to respond to him. You know, the issue of interference. A lot of people have said that in the judiciary at the moment, even about the cliche about judiciary being the last hope of the common man. Some say not anymore because it's about who can buy justice now. And talking about buying justice, I'm sure you saw that in the news where a ranking senator came out to talk about how somebody who is related to him influenced judgments and all of that, and then you get to see all of that happening. How can the CGN handle the issue of interference in terms of politicians, or if you like political office holders, interfering with cases in court and how it goes?
Okay, now let me answer your question by asking you a question.
That will not be an answer.
You see, people make allegations. You need to have somebody who says, I gave money to a judge. If somebody makes an allegation, you should put up a petition. And like I told you, judiciary has a mechanism of working on it. And there's also impression that I want to correct. Now, if you look at the national judicial policy, it spells out the fact that the judiciary should have a cordial relationship with the executive arm of government. Now, you don't know that the federal judicial system, as created by Section 153 of the Constitution, is an executive body. The Federal Judicial Service Commission is an executive body headed by the Chief Justice of Nigeria. The National Judicial Council you're talking about, created by the Constitution, Section 153 of the Constitution, 1999 Constitution as amended, is an executive body, but headed by the Chief Justice of Nigeria. So you need to draw two virile distinctions. When the judges are dealing with cases before them, that is where you talk about judicial independence and non-interference. When the Honorable, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, including the President of the Court of Appeal and heads of courts, are dealing with issues that concern the development of the judiciary and indeed the development of Nigeria, because if you look at the preamble to Nigerian Constitution, it talks about giving to ourselves a constitution that guarantees justice. Then there must be a relationship with the other arms of government in order to ensure that the welfare of the judicial officers, to ensure that Nigerian development is upheld. Now, there are other, I was expecting us to get to other key challenges like technology and so on and so forth. But we were talking about dealing with issues before the court. The Emir, the Kanu case you're talking about is sub judice. Leave the court to do its work. When the high courts finish, they'll go to Court of Appeal. There's only one Court of Appeal. An issue in a case, an aspect of a case might revolve on jurisdiction of the Federal High Court. An aspect might revolve on the jurisdiction of the state court. So whichever court at that level that has jurisdiction, which is what he's referring to be evident. If you go to Court of Appeal will say, no, it is either the Federal High Court or the Court of or the state court that has jurisdiction. Stop discussing life issues before the court, because the facts are before the court. Let the courts do their work. Okay? Yes, judges are human beings. There are a lot of the occasions that there are disparities in judgment, but then that's why you have judicial precedent. So the challenge before the Supreme Court is to emphasize and ensure that decisions follow the ones that were already been dealt with before. That is what is called the doctrine of judicial precedent. And if that is done, and done very well, a Court of Appeal has no reason to depart from a judgment of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has no reason to depart from its judgment except under very special circumstances. But it's a policy court, okay? So these are some of the things on the ground. So it is not good to just lay allegations. Yes, there are a few cases, like the case you mentioned on Imo case. People are entitled to speak about it. But if you have any reason to, on that matter, this decision has been given. Write about it and let us read about it. For information, I was in that case. I may not be happy, but it's not about me. It's about the system. It's about Nigeria. It's about having a nation where there is peace. In fact, one of the writings of His Lordship, I've read a lot of the new CJN's writings. She's well learned and she's written extensively. Is law as a tool of social justice. A presentation she made in 2010 in Ibadan. If you read that, you see a CJN that is conscious about these things. Judges are human beings. They can make mistakes.
All right.
Mistakes may have been making in a few cases. There may be other reasons that are apparent on the record that we don't know about. And as lawyers, we accept whatever decision. We can grumble about it. We can criticize it.
Are some mistakes pardonable? For example, like the certified true copy, having a different version.
I don't know about that. I didn't. What I'm saying is that I cannot speak about that because I did not apply for a certified true. I can only speak about what I have just told you about what I know about the CJN, and I'm speaking from my personal knowledge. Now, most of the thing, what I'm saying is that if you told me that NTA commissioned its legal department to obtain a certified true judgment of that case, and this is what you find, I will say yes. But we are just reading different versions of same foundational story from several sources. Leave the court to do their work.
All right. Thank you, Leonard Silk. I was going to ask, when at a point I had to ask you,
yes,
what do you consider the task before this new CJN? And now you've alluded to technology at some point.
Yes.
I'm going to ask, do you think that the Supreme Court, as currently constituted, has all the complements, the number of judges that it should have? And what can technology do in this circumstance? How much can technology do?
Right, excellent. Now, the Constitution limits the number of honorable justices of the Supreme Court to 21. Right now, I think
Do we
they
have
have
21?
21. 2-1.
Do we have 21?
We don't have 20. I think we have 20 now. Okay? But then we can review the Constitution to expand the number of honorable justices, having regard to the fact that we're a country of over 200 million people. Imagine the kind of cases that go to court, like the former Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria mentioned, a case involving 12 goats. Somebody alleged that somebody else took his 12 goats and he went from a customary court to High Court to Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. By then 20 years had elapsed. 12 goats. So it is a responsibility not just for the CJN.
So that's part of the reforms that we should see.
Exactly. Constitutional reforms at this time. Now technology is important.
Okay.
Coincidentally, this CJN is equipped to handle it. Right back in 1996, she was a member of the committee that reformed the Lagos judiciary regarding their ICT, regarding the code of conduct, regarding the ADR. At the Court of Appeal, she headed the ICT committee of the Court of Appeal while she was there. Now, during the tenure of my Lord Honorable Justice Kayode Ariwola, she also headed the rules committee that came up with the new rules of the Supreme Court 2024. And that rules recognized the need for enhanced technology. Now, we're still trying to deal with elementary technology. You now have artificial intelligence that even courts across the world are beginning to look at how to enhance what they are doing. It will amaze you. Go to Supreme Court. They still take writings in longhand. Go to the filing department. You see a whole lot of files flung and scattered. They need more funding. And you see, we just keep laying blames on the courts. Section 1629 of the Constitution talks about public revenue in Nigeria. It says that the funds to the credit of the judiciary shall be paid over to the National Judicial Council for disbursement to the heads of courts. But you don't find this done in the states. The state governors receive the funds. They want the chief judge to come hand begging. Welfare of the honorable judges you're talking about, you just heard about the bill that was signed only yesterday that has yet to be implemented. Go and see how these judges that work so hard, serve your nation for 30, 35 years, you don't have a home to go with. Except for Ebonyi State that recently recognized the fact that retired judges need to have decent homes. In all the states, you see judges dying, they can't afford medical
including Rivers
attention.
State?
Ebonyi State,
including
yes.
Rivers? Are you saying judges in Rivers State are also...
No, I'm talking about, I mentioned Ebonyi, I didn't mention Rivers.
Yeah, but you said across the 36 states, so I'm just mentioning...
Yeah, I'm saying across the 36 states, most of the governors would not credit this fund to the head of the judiciary. Why would you not? If you go to the court, visit a court in the Kano he talked about, visit a court in Abia you talked about, you see dilapidated structures. This must be the time for the Honorable Chief Justice of Nigeria, using judicial policy number 3 that talks about cordial relationship with other arms of government, to draw attention to the executive. Ensure, let Mr. President, I'm just happy about what happened with the local government funding case, where the Supreme Court decided that the funds to go straight to local government council. That is the same thing you are having with the judiciary. The state governors hold back the funds of the judiciary. You go there, you find out that judges would not have funds for transportation to deal with essential things. Even the court clerks you're talking about, the essential things, the papers, the files, they're not there.
Of course, that's one area.
So that's one area
we're expecting the CGN to look at, and that would take care of state capture of the judiciary, which is a problem,
right.
Across different states. But let's quickly hear from Dr. Modibo also. We'll come back to you. Dr. Modibo, listening to the learned essay and talk and all of that, and trying to make us feel that maybe we're not doing enough, or maybe Nigeria is not doing enough to judicial officers. Some would say that judicial officers get all that they should get, and maybe because corruption, like you have mentioned, has eaten deep into the system, is why we see what we see. But let's look specifically at the CJN now. Some say that the powers, which she controls, are too much. Do you agree with that thought, or you think that the way it is at the moment, looking at all that she controls, is in the right place?
Thank you very much for that question. But before I delve into that, let me place a caveat. I came from the home of the judiciary or judicial officer. My father was an area court judge in those days. Therefore, I will never, for any reason, disparage the judiciary. All I'm conversing for is for good judiciary, a judicial system will respect, that will earn respect of Nigerians, so as to move itself away from the public perception of being abused by the law. This is a caveat. Now, how do we defend? There are fundamental cases that you even cited. I'm so happy. Issues of two cases of fundamental importance. One, the issue of former Senate President Ahmed Lawan and the current Senate President Akpabio. Two of them went and contested for the presidency and came back. After they lost, do you buy two forms simultaneously at a time to contest for two different elections? When you lose there, you hang on to the other one. So if you look at this, these are some of the fundamental issues that bring ridicule to the judiciary. For a judicial system to allow, to say that, look, this person has won in that election, and you just went and lost election in the presidency, you came and captured.
Dr. Modibo, but I think it's established.
No,
it's established.
No,
we're looking at the task before the new CJ.
Yes,
it's established that there is indiscipline. It's established that there is work to be done in that area. I'm not sure that we need to start, recalling cases.
It's very important.
It's established that there's something to deal with in that area.
You see, in terms, I always recall, with nostalgia, the philosophical thinking of Joseph Santayana. He precisely stated that if experience is not retained, infancy is perpetual. Those that forget the past are doomed to repeat it. The history is very fundamental. These are some of the pitfalls that this woman should look into, where the Supreme Court will come and make judgments based on political considerations, because I cannot see in the whole of this world where you have two nominations, after you lose that one, you come and hang on to. That is one. Then secondly,
all of this can be captured under the need to look at how judgments
and even look at the issue of rivers. The issue of rivers at the moment,
can be captured.
You see this Federal High Court giving this judgment, State High Court giving. So now, to the point, Justice Kekereekun, that has just been nominated, I'm sure she has
confirmed.
I'm sure she's equal to the task. And my appeal is for her to put into consideration, as your question goes. First and foremost, let her overhaul the judicial system. It's very fundamental. Look at the issue of employment opportunities. Look at the issue of technology. Bring technology to these people. I'm happy that the Royal Health has given us tabulation computation of some of the cases as compared to the US. But the US framework is different from that of Nigeria, because if you look at the issue of judgments in the US, they have, there are issues of even dispute resolution mechanism. So why can't we form it here? If you have political cases that you think is too much to add to the burden of the current Supreme Court, why can't you form a dispute resolution mechanism that will encompass, one, retired justices of character and decision? Form them. Make sure that they go into these cases and make it since they've been learned and they've been into practice for a very long time. Let it be a final, let them be the final arbiter, rather than endorsing this. And look at the issue of even some of these governors. There are governors that since 1999 that have looted Nigeria's economy. They've drained Nigeria dry. They've stolen Nigeria's money. Up to today, they have not been convicted. None of them is in prison. It's only when you still goat or chicken that they will take you to prison.
It is the case that comes before the court.
That is what we're saying.
And some of these governors, to be honest, have been in jail. Some of them have been in jail.
How many? If I may ask, only two. And all the two have just been given pardon.
That depends on diligent prosecution.
What we're saying is here, my brother, the issue of the judiciary. No, excuse me, Silk, wait. You'll be giving your time so much. So allow me to tell you what I feel. Under the current circumstances, you should look dispassionately at dispensation of justice based on justice. The cases are delayed since 1999 up to the present does not give justice. If you have stolen, that is why today people steal with impunity. They go into office with the mindset of looting. They steal, and nothing will happen because they believe that if they steal, they have their way out. So we should look dispassionate justice. Kekereekun should see to the dispensation of most of these people that have been accused of pilfering our money. Look at today, because of impunity, the governor of Kogi State, courts have been inviting him to come. Federal High Court to Andisi. About 6 times now he refused to come. Is that no impunity? If the judicial
But
system...
the people of Kogi said money is not missing.
That's not the issue.
No, excuse me. The EFCC is, it has a prosecutor. It has no investigation. Whether the Kogi people, well, you know, most of these people are lapdogs of the current governor. Therefore, EFCC is an independent body that has been vested with the responsibility of searching and then giving to their lawyers to prosecute. They have a case. Let him come to the court. If not, why is he afraid of coming to the court? And today, the court seems to be helpless. It seems to be helpless because he refused to come. So, I am not laying the blame on the doorsteps of
the
I can't say
because the EFCC hasn't done enough.
No, EFCC has done enough. Don't blame it. It has a case at hand. I know.
Has it brought the accused?
How can you bring the accused when the accused has been dodging? If God court gives you, summons you, it was not like God then summoning you. But now, court will summon you and with impunity.
In other words, we are talking about the perception of the judiciary.
Not the perception
of Nigeria.
My brother, don't be citing the judiciary. Not the perception. The fact on the ground.
Dr. Modibo.
The fact on the ground is that this man has refused. It's impunity.
Dr. Modibo, I think we should just take a break at this point. When we come back, we'll talk some more on this topic. Stay with us.
The federal government of Nigeria wants vandals of national assets, electricity transmission towers, cables and other facilities to desist from this act of sabotage. Vandalism is a serious crime punishable under the law. Vandalizing electrical equipments will affect millions of Nigerians, including your loved ones. Remember that national assets belong to all of us, hence the need to protect them. Report all cases of suspicious movement around electrical facilities to security agencies. When you see something, say something. This message is from the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation in collaboration with the National Counter-Terrorism Center, NCTC, Office of the National Security Advisor.
I think Amaka should just move out of the house. Yes.
No. Standing out of the house is not the right thing to do.
Oh, there you go again with your sentimental family stuff.
Baby, if our aim is to stop this affair, it is best achieved under our roof.
You do something terrible and you'll be acting innocent.
What are you going on about?
Don't ask me that question again. You couldn't even control yourself in the presence of our visitors.
What are you accusing me of, woman?
My son, I don't know how serious you are with my daughter, but there's something that needs to be done urgently before you move any further.
Anything, just anything, just say it. I'm ready to do anything.
There is a spell that needs to be removed.
A spell?
Family forever, the story of our lives.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Nigeria means a lot to me.
And Nigeria means peaceful cohesion. My country.
We continue to pray, and then hopefully we will come to understand that unity unity of purpose, unity of living together.
Our ethnic beliefs and background and culture is our strength.
Ever since the amalgamation period of 1914 to date, about 109 years ago, the people of Nigeria live very peacefully with one another.
I think diversity helps a lot to enhance robust development in Nigeria.
All over the country, you have so many ethnic groups, over 250. That is enough to tell you that this is a blessed country that, God has kept, together as one indivisible entity.
The race to qualify for the biggest football competition in Africa is on, the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. 48 teams in 12 groups, with only the top 2 teams in each group qualifying for the African Cup of Nations in 2025 in Morocco. Don't miss the action, suspense and unrivaled coverage on AfroSport TV and its affiliates partners across Nigeria, starting from September 2024 to November 2024. AfroSport, your freedom of sport.
This Sunday, Roma. Venezia. Roma versus Venezia. Live on Sporty TV.
SportyBet sponsors coverage of the Italian Serie A.
All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And our topic for today is the task ahead for the new CJN. We have 2 guests, and if you've been following, it's been a very heated one. And of course, we still have Dr. Modibo with us and James Igwe SEN. I'd like to get to James Igwe SEN now. You wanted to respond before we went on that break to some comments made by Dr. Modibo. I'd like you to respond to that, and also let us know if there is immunity for erring judicial officers and what the CGN can do in that regard, because we're talking about perception in the eyes of the public. What has come to question in some quarters is the fact that even when a judicial officer is found, to have, done something not appropriate, we only hear of suspension and nothing more. So is there something, or you think that, what would you like to see the CJN do, to erring judicial officers, or what can the law, begin to recommend, just so that the average Nigerian, knows that, okay, this judgment also gets to those who judge?
Yeah, thank you very kindly. And just like you said, let me respond to the very last salvo he fired to the judiciary. When a case is before a court and a court makes an order, it is not the responsibility of the court to go and arrest a person. The responsibility immediately becomes that of the executive. The executive controls the police. The executive controls the EFCC that brought him. And also, it is how whatever facts the prosecutor brings to the court that the honorable judges look at. So that is not a kind of blame. And that is what I'm talking about, the wrong public perception. But because, and to answer your question, all our courts needs to ensure that their public sector department, establish a viable public awareness department where you can quickly respond to some of these issues. Because the judges are very busy. They don't care what anybody is saying. They're just caring about the facts before them. It must be a time for also the Honorable Court, because it's part of our judicial policy. It's a key judicial policy for every court to establish a public awareness department. So I am urging His Lordship, the Honorable the Chief Justice of Nigeria, who is well equipped with all the trainings right from when he was a judge at the Lagos High Court, where I personally appeared before her and saw a very disciplined judge, a very brilliant, very erudite, deep in thinking, to ensure, to bring it to the meeting, because they have an administration of justice committee, and to make it compulsory, and then also to ensure that, like I mentioned, the funds allocated to them from the Consolidated Revenue Fund, you must make sure it gets to them, because if they don't have a fund, for example, they can't run what I'm suggesting. So they need to establish it. And they also find a way to, most of the times, the law reports you see of these cases, he mentioned 2 isolated cases, but I just told you that Supreme Court alone delivered 247 judgments in 1 year. And here we are, isolating only 2 political cases to use it to condemn the entire judiciary. That is unfair to them. I'm not saying that I have not lost a case. I lose a case, I file an appeal. I lose at the Supreme Court, I say I have done my very best. Let it be at every point in time that a lawyer in his research will beat his chest and say, I have done my very best and I lost. You'll be happy that you lost. And I have lost a case in Supreme Court where the client came to me to thank me and said, I saw how you worked. I read your brief. I gave your briefs around to people to read, and they said, wow, this is one of the best briefs I've ever written. But unfortunately, perhaps, the court saw a point that didn't favor me. And so I give glory to God. That's how it should be. And then we lawyers must also learn to avoid filing frivolous appeals and also chasing shadows where we shouldn't. There are several challenges before His Lordship. Like I said, the first judicial policy number 1 is that of independence and impartiality. Now,
would you say the judiciary is independent as it is today?
When it comes to dealing with their cases, judiciary is independent. They are aware. The legendary Lord Denning, in his treatise on the road to justice, said, and I quote from my head, when you set out on this road to justice, you will remember there are 2 great objects to be attained. One is to see that the laws are just, and I'll come to that because we must ensure that our laws are just. The other is to ensure that the laws are justly administered. Of the 2, the most important is that they are justly administered. In the administration of justice in the cases, there are isolated cases. And coming to your question, the National Judicial Council has a disciplinary measure committee process of dealing with them, but they are not published. It is not just suspension. Judges have been dismissed. The records are there. Judges of appellate courts, Court of Appeal, have been dismissed. In this, and nobody is talking about it. They don't talk about it because most of the times they want to make sure they keep the confidence of a case. And then there's also a policy that when you write a petition, don't publish it in the papers. Don't go to the media. Let them do their work based on the facts of the case. And then when they deal with those cases, they don't even bother going to publish it. So I am saying that based on her, because the new CJN headed what they call the Public Awareness Committee in Lagos State, where people came and spoke about what they wanted to see in the judiciary in Lagos State. So she had an interaction with lawyers and with ordinary citizens. Let His Lordship bring that wealth of experience, judicial experience, to bear on this tax. And I'm certainly sure she will. And then there's another issue. Luckily, the new Supreme Court rules has helped to reform the ADR system in the Supreme Court. A whole lot of the cases, they have so many cases that are locked up there. Perhaps the new CJN should set up a small committee comprising a few honorable justices and a few staff of the Supreme Court to look at these cases and advise litigants on the ones that should go to the ADR. In that case, you reduce the docket. I have cases that have been there for 7 years, 8 years.
So what can the CJN do in that regard, in trying to hasten judgments?
Effective case management system. She's already trained to deal with that. Effective case management system where you can look at the dockets, isolate those that should go to ADR, okay? And now that you have about 20 honorable justices, quickly ensure that the panels deal with them and then have the numerous conferences they have, make it more regular so that it is in those conferences that judges are able to unite their views. In that way, you don't have differing judgments that he's referring to. So the new CJN is armed and equipped to do that. So His Lordship should get to that work by the grace of God, and God will give her the strength as quickly as possible to deal with it. And then there's another thing which I keep emphasizing on. When we talk about judicial independence, we should look at it in the context of cases before them, not in the context of administration of justice, because the judiciary is not an Ireland on its own. The Constitution of Nigeria created 3 arms of government, sections 4, 5, and 6, created the the legislature, the executive, and then the judiciary under section 6. So the CJN would have to fashion a way of ensuring that there is a harmonious working relationship with the arms of the government without compromising the doctrine of separation of powers you will find embedded in the 1999 Constitution. So it's a thing that requires a lot of judicial diplomacy, a lot of engineering, a lot of architectural designing and redesigning, and also ensuring that the other heads of courts are carried along. But the executive has even more work to do, because a lot of the governors deprive the judiciary of the requisite fundings that they need to develop the judiciary. So that should stop. And then we also have the problem of outdated laws. It is not the function of the judge to reform the law. And as His Lordship, the Honorable Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes say, whatever the judges say and nothing more pretentious, that's what I mean by the law. So the judges only pronounce on what is the law before them. Okay? Now, when they come to talk about what ought to be the law, you say, oh, they have delivered a technical judgment. Just like in the local government case, they said, no, it must be the intention of our forefathers, those who sat in the Constitutional Review Committee of 1978, headed by my former boss, the legendary Chirotimi Williams, to that it must be that all the funds that are due to the local government councils must go to them directly. We don't care what section 1625 is saying. So governors, this money must be sent to them directly. So if that is done, it's just a way of ensuring that the CJN is able to ensure that we get across to the requisite, to the appropriate persons in the executive to do that and implement that and ensure it's done. And then there's one more challenge, which is administration of justice. Now, access to justice is very, very low, because you find out that we have very few courts. I'm talking about, so CJN must have to ensure that the chief judges of states, who are members of the National Judicial Council, do what they need to do. Okay, but the executive also has far more responsibility in that, because we need to increase their budget. The national judicial policy is such that the honorable judges are barred from lobbying the National Assembly. They don't expect the judiciary to come to them lobbying for increase. It must be something that the legal committee of the National Assembly looks at, liaises with the chief registrar of the courts, and takes what ought to be the appropriate budget for the court system. We don't expect them to come to, because by the national judicial policy, they are barred from going to lobby. So when the funds are abysmally low, their hands are tied, and they can hardly do anything.
But I think that chairmen of the judiciary committees, with due respect, in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, I do know that they try to do their best. Of course, what comes out of it is a matter of how much funds are available. But thank you very much, Leonard Silk. Let me get to Dr. Modibo. Now, in your opinion, how much of an issue would you say appointments in the judiciary has become, and then training of officers?
Thank you for that question. Now, I wish Justice Kekereekun well. And by the grace of God, by the time maybe she will finish her tenure, she would record some major landmarks which will have a pride of place in the annals of this country. Fundamentally, what I see is this a woman that came in to meet a country that has been plagued by challenges of corruption, spiritually indiscipline, gross impunity, security challenges, and monumental poverty in the midst of plenty. How does she look at the issues of contention such as this in trying to modify the judiciary? Fundamentally, one, let me make a suggestion. She should make sure that there is judicial independence in terms of, as the last speaker rightly stated, in terms of funding, both the federal and the states. Because the states, most of the high courts of the state are pandering to the whims and caprices of the governors because they're tied to the government of the state because of funding. Let there be independence in terms of funding for the judiciary.
I'm just wondering. Now, he says, I'm sorry, just so that we don't miss the point. He said the judges are barred from going to lobby. Now, that's taken. But just like in the case of the local government, funding, can somebody not go to court, for instance, which now comes to their own court to say, carve out that independence in terms of funding for the judiciary, and then they will have the right to be the ones to adjudicate over it?
You see, you cannot be a judge in your own case.
So where will you take the matter?
You see, I'm sure the way and manner things are going today, Lord Denning, may God bless his soul, will be turning his grave because of some of the fundamental flaws that are embedded in the current judiciary. As you've stated, can you go and bring a matter that involves me to my court? What judgment do you want me to give?
So whose court would you take it?
No.
If you have to go to court,
you see,
and say, look, the judiciary should be funded directly, and you go to court, who will adjudicate?
There should be executive order. You carry a bill or this to the National Assembly, the National Assembly should make pronouncement, and the President could assign his signature to it without going there. 2, I want to believe that Justice Kekere is really, set for this job. What she should do is to make sure that all these ex parte motions, frivolous, you see a judge on Friday or Saturday, midnight, you will just grant ex parte motion. For course, why do you find this? When this day has closed, the day of the working day has closed, you find ex parte motions being sent to the press around 12 midnight. He should make sure that some of these judges should be looked at straight into their eyes and tell them that, look, they should stop these ex parte motions. 3, let us overhaul even the law school. Just like in Britain. With your first degree, you don't go to law school. You must have a master's degree to improve the quality and quantity in terms of level of thinking, and also in terms of, if you look at the English, well, I'm sorry, with due respect, some of the people that I meet and they tell me they are lawyers, I don't believe. Because if I look at the text of English, I tend to wonder. Because I read English in my first degree. So, there's the need to upgrade, to conform with the beautiful standard of people like the learned self. They've gone through the rudiments of law, and they've been able to pop up to that highest peak of the legal profession. Look at sound English. Look at level of perception that is given. But there are some of these young ones that don't know. 3, I strongly believe that Justice Kekere should make sure that in terms of appointments, as rightly stated, let people that are tested and trusted, let people that know the law, let people that have served either on the bar or at the bench with sound philosophical thinking and legal backing to be brought in as judges. Do not bring in people based on political considerations, because I've seen some governors, because they want to go and impose their political empire, they take their daughters, they take their wives to either High Court, Court of Appeal, and they're giving judgment. They're giving position as judges. It's unfortunate, it's unfair. In those days, you don't think like this. They'll bring you from nowhere when you don't know anybody and make you a judge. So there should be that thinking where meritocracy comes over a kind of mediocrity.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Modibo. Now, like my learned Silk here to tell me what you think the CGN, or rather tell Nigerians what you think the CGN can do as regards quackery. Dr. Modibo had mentioned that even those who are qualified, there are issues and what the law school should be like. And away from those who have even gone to law school, we know that there's so many people parading themselves as lawyers everywhere. Some even go to court, and all kinds of things happening. So how can the CGN deal with quackery? And then the issue of nepotism. Dr. Modibo did mention that, of course, we know in this country there was a particular CJN who, appointed his son as a judge in the Federal High Court, his daughter-in-law as a High Court judge. And then in the Federal Capital Territory, his brother became an Auditor General of the NJC. So how can the issue of nepotism, which some say is really very huge in the judiciary, be dealt with by the CGN?
Yeah, okay, thank you very kindly. Regarding appointment of judicial officers, the Constitution is very clear on the qualification of an appointment. For you to be a judge of the High Court, you must have practiced law for a period of 10 years. The question is there anybody that was appointed that did not meet the constitutional criteria? If there's anybody you know that did not meet that constitutional criteria, let us know.
Perhaps moral criteria.
I'm coming. I'm taking the questions one by one. We'll start with the Constitution is the ground norm. The section 1, subsection 3 says that every other law flows from this Constitution. And then the Constitution, it says the Constitution is everything. Okay, every law flows from it. Every norm flows from it. Every practice flows from it. And any law or practice or norm that is inconsistent with the Constitution is, to the extent of its inconsistency, void. So is there anyone in that list that did not meet the constitutional criteria? That's number one. Then you have to balance these things. While I would not support or say that somebody will start appointing all his relations, but at the same time, if a relation is qualified, should you disqualify that person because he's related to someone? These are some of the issues, okay? You are here in the studio, doing your work, working very hard, very fervently, and by the grace of God, in the next 20 years, your husband becomes the minister for information in Nigeria, and you become you need to become the NTA Director General, and they say, oh no, because the husband is the Minister of Information, remove her, apply injustice, whereas the preamble of the Constitution says we're a nation founded by Constitution, by justice. And he said, under God. Our Constitution in its preamble recognizes the fact that Nigeria is a nation under God. And so whatever we do as a public official, as an individual in the private sector, or wherever we are, is it such that you, giving account to God, you can say in your heart of hearts that this is pure, this is clean? Read the preamble of the Constitution. Our Constitution also says a nation that is founded on unity, one united indissoluble entity, founded on the principles of freedom and justice. Would you say that what we have done accords with justice? Is a matter of the heart, is a matter of conscience. And like one of our founding fathers say, conscience is an open wound, only truth can heal it. Danfodio said. So these are the things. The Constitution has taken care of everything. So whatever we do, can we say that it's such that giving account to God is just? Can we also say that giving account to our Constitution that talks about equality in section 36 of our Constitution, that talks about justice, is it also just? So if it's not, then we shouldn't do it.
All right. Now, we are running out. In fact, we don't have time anymore.
Could you just round off? Could you just round off in 30 seconds?
Right. I also wanted to mention there is a need for his lordship. She is already the head of the National Judicial Institute, recognized by the NJI Act for training of judges, but more needs to be done. That institute needs to be equipped financially. If that institute is equipped financially, they will conduct continuous training, ensure that the Honorable Judge's training accord with international and national developmone.
All right.
They should not just be left in the court working from day and night
without
the kind of training, not a 1 year conference of all judges every year. No, equipping that institute with a kind of modern technological and other kinds of training.
Continue to train
the judges, so it becomes a natural thing.
Thank you very much, Leonard Sek. Dr. Modibo, just in 30 seconds, please.
Thank you very much. Thoughts. What is considered as morality comes into play? Morality. That is one of the ethics and etiquette of the whole grand norms of the judiciary and even the worldwide. If you have morals, is it justifiable for you to appoint your own children, your child, your wife, at the same time, because you are head of an organization? It's not fair.
All right.
It's not fair. So that means it has become an inheritance culture.
No, we understand that now.
A poor man will not have,
while they may not have run foul of any law, you are just talking about the morality of it. Well, let's thank you very much at this point, Dr. Ibrahim Modibo, development communications scholar and public affairs analyst. I'd like to thank you very much for your time and thoughts on the program. Thank you. Yeah. And then Leonard Silk, James Igwe, SAN and a legal practitioner. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your contributions on the program.
I wish our nation rule of law.
Indeed.
In all ramifications.
Indeed.
All right, so that's Good Morning Nigeria this Friday. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend. I'm Ian Ray John.
And I'm Victor Azu. Join us again on Monday.